What is up, everybody? This is Luke here, and I am joined with the other Luke. This is DC Luke.
Yeah, we're crossing the streams for this one.
Yeah, we definitely are. And we have Will.
Yeah, I'm here too.
All right, guys. So we just all got out of seeing Mr. Doctor a couple of hours ago.
Don't you mean Professor Oddball?
Guys. Dr. Weird is the layman's term.
It's Master Obtuse.
Yes,
I actually like that one a lot.
It is Marvel's Harry Potter.
Yes, pretty much.
Pretty much. Which is funny, I had a Fantastic Beasts trailer before it too.
Well, anyways, guys, welcome to the official spoiler discussion for Marvel's Doctor Strange. So I guess we're just kind of gonna get right into it. This is gonna be a little raw. We're gonna talk spoilers here, so we're gonna talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end of the film. So if none of you guys have seen the film yet, I recommend that you go and watch it because it is worth watching, and then come back and listen to this and hear what we have to say about it. But I think we're just gonna start talking about it. So, guys, what are your guys' first impressions? What do you guys think?
Why don't you two go first? I'm the DC man out, and
All right.
speak at the end.
Will, go ahead, man.
Oh, okay. I liked it. I like it more. It was one of those movies going in where I'm just like, I will probably come out liking it, but I had no real expectations going in. The effects were great, and the music was really good. But I had two problems with it, and I told you guys about this before, but no one else has heard me. So, one issue I have with it is that, like, although it is an origin story, and the way they handle the beats is, like, pretty solid due to the actors, just about every beat in the movie you can call. Like, it's pretty formulaic when it comes to that. And my other issue has to do with the time stone, which could have rectified so many problems in the movie as soon as they introduced it. And we knew, because we, like, knew about the set photos and the color and everything. But, like, and they even straight up say it at the end, you don't know about handling an Infinity Stone. He's like, a what? He's like, oh, you've learned so much and you still know nothing. I'm like, you motherfucker. We know it's a goddamn Infinity Stone. The fuck else can control time? Magic?
Yeah.
No.
I know.
Thanos is coming. So.
All right, guys, we'll get into that. Oh,
gonna rip the chain off his neck like a...
So I'm gonna give my impressions. I liked the film. I really did. I went into this film, I'm not gonna lie, I did have some concerns. I feel like the film overall was another home run for Marvel. Excuse me. However, I will say that it does have its problems, and I think that for as an obscure of a character as Doctor Strange is, I mean, we live in not only a post-Avengers movie world, but we live in a post-Ant-Man and a post-Guardians of the Galaxy, which are other obscure, strange properties, unheard of properties. Doctor Strange is one of those. And I think that it still has a safety net, and for as weird and obscure and as far out there as they went in terms of, like, lore and expanding the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse, you can still tell that those safety nets are hidden just out of sight. You really can. And it almost seems as like, like looking back when Kevin Feige was talking about having Doctor Strange enter this into this movie universe, he said, we're going all out, we're not holding back. And I don't think that they didn't hold back all the way, but it kind of seems like they had, like, one foot in the door still for, like, in terms of practicality. You know what I mean? And I wasn't really expecting that. I wanted them to actually go all out. Like, he even said, this is, like, one of my biggest gripes of the entire film, is I was explaining this to Luke earlier. When they spellcast, it works differently in the film than it does in the comic, because in the comic, whenever they spellcast, they have to physically summon this power. In the film, the Ancient One describes how they're drawing their power and their magic. It comes from other dimensions, from these cosmic beings. People like the Vishanti, people like Agamotto, and people like Ashtur. Entities like that is where they draw their power from. But in order to, like, let's say cast a firebolt or something, they need to physically summon that more than just wave their hands. And I wanted to see that element so badly in this film, and we just did not get it. And to me, that was a really big letdown. Some people might argue in the comments that might have been overkill, or the general audience wouldn't be ready for that. But I don't think so. I think that this is what Kevin said we were going to get, and we didn't get that. And to me, I feel slightly let down by that.
Honestly, they probably just did it to streamline the fighting. Even though I wouldn't have mind seeing it. I guess that could be a reason. If you have like it might look like a bunch of LARPers if you're just like lightning bolt, firebolt.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they could have made that look cool.
I know.
Like,
I'm not saying they couldn't have, but I'm assuming that might have been why they did it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it wouldn't be that hard to very quickly to say, by the eternal flames of Ashtar I summon, blah blah blah.
Actually,
and,
you could have set that up for a joke where someone's about to cast a spell and it's just like, by the flaming bells of, oh fuck, like it's just run off. Like a building comes going at them something.
I wanted to see that element so bad, and that kind of let me down. That not even one. I mean, guys, we got like Easter eggs and references galore. And I know that I'm speaking a little negatively here, but this is just like my one critique, my one big critique more than anything else. So I guess like overall, I really did like the film, but there's still much more to talk about. But Luke, I want to hear your thoughts, man.
So I like Doctor Strange a lot. He's probably one of the coolest Marvel characters, I think. Just in my opinion. All the Steve Ditko stuff from like the early 70s are still like, you look back, some comics from that age, like, yeah, it's a little campy, but like you can still read Doctor Strange comics and you can still be amazed by this character back then. So I had a very high expectations. Kevin Feige was like, yeah, we're going all out. We're doing all the stuff. Few posters came out and I was like, yeah, this is looking really cool. I saw the first trailer and I said, uh-oh, this looks a lot like they're doing Iron Man. And I thought, well, that's just the first trailer. And steadily each trailer since, I was just not really getting sold on this property. And the more I read, the more they kept talking about the multiverse and how important Strange was going to be for everything. Which, I'll say this right now, the movie is pretty standalone. That's nice. But it just feels like they were saying we're going to do all of this crazy stuff. And we get glimpses of that stuff. We get a really cool glimpses of alternate universes and crazy, like, bending of reality. But it just feels like they have their foot, like Luke said, they still have their foot set in the door where they're like, okay, ease up on that a little bit because the audience isn't going to be fully on board with, just guys shooting spells at each other. And one of my biggest gripes in this movie is that the fights look cool, but it's people running around throwing weapons at each other, and that's not really how it goes down in a Doctor Strange comic.
Exactly.
They're like throwing spells at each other. They're not like swinging whips and axes at each other.
The only spells that I saw were just counter. There were like counter shielding spells where he like summons these mandalas of light to protect him, like as physical shields. And like even Caecilius, he was just using. Like he was doing like the cool fractal stuff and changing the environment around him and warping reality, but overall, like he was just using like these like ethereal spears to like stab people with. And I'm like, what would have been cooler? A cooler concept to me is have those ethereal spheres, but like shooting them through like your spell casting after you summon them from some kind of cosmic energy. You know what I mean? That is a much more accurate depiction. Like translating it from the comic to the movie. That is what I wanted to see.
And I will say this, for as much as they kept, pushing, they said multiverse, I think, like 30 fucking times in this movie, but
they did.
As much as they kept pushing that, I'm actually surprised that there was no, like, fights going throughout the multiverse. Like, that seems like that could have been...
Yeah.
now that I'm thinking about it, though, I'm just like, maybe that just would have been too expensive. But
like, it might have been, but
once you get past the opening, it's fucking over, son.
Because like
that's where all the budget went. That and Dormammu's
because
face.
I'll just say this: like the fights where like they're fighting on New York and like New York is like bending around them. That was cool. But the thing is, I've already seen that effect before. Like I've seen that like twice before now.
Yeah.
So it's not really like wholly new. I've already seen this. Like,
now, granted, they did some cool stuff with an old effect.
Yeah, they were actually doing some cool stuff. Like when they were running through the city, him and Mordo, like in Caecilius was following them. Yeah. That was cool. How like the entire city was just warping and bending around them. But
when it went all,
I think
MC
you're
Escher.
right. Like seeing them fight. Wouldn't it have been cool to like see them fight through time and like or even in different timelines rather than just fighting through different dimensions? And that is another big thing that I wanted to see, and it didn't even have to like be crucial to the plot at all. I just wanted them to acknowledge they kept. You're right. They said multiverse about 30 times, and each and every one of those times they said multiverse, they were just referring to different or higher or lower dimensions, but not necessarily different timelines in the time stream. They like you have Wong who straight up says you're messing with the time space continuum, and yet we still didn't see one single alternate timeline. We didn't see a timeline where Doctor Strange, instead of being a doctor, was a lawyer, or he ran like Stark Tech or something like that, or he was a founding Avenger. Like I wanted to see little glimpses of that, and again, it didn't have to be crucial to the plot.
You just see a glance at the future of just like Strange and Spidey and Panther and all.
Again, some people are going to argue that would have been overkill and it would have been too much for general audiences.
I don't think so. Like, they could have put more Easter eggs in there.
But like I think my biggest problem is just because for a movie that has really cool visuals, really strives to introduce a lot of new stuff for the universe, it's surprisingly Doctor Strange is not that strange in terms of its story. It's just really, it's very similar to other stuff we've gotten before. And is that a bad thing? I don't know yet. But I will say,
I don't know. Because what it seems like, and if my theory's right, if Guardians of the Galaxy 2 goes way out of its way to be different in terms of storytelling for the second feature, then my theory is correct that they put their foot halfway in the door for each and every one of these entries, and then if general audiences really like they really love it and it's received very, very exceptionally well, then they'll be like, all right, we'll take our foot out of the door. Now we're going completely balls deep.
Yeah, I think only. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because the whole thing is that you want to see you get a director on board for a Marvel film, and it's like a big name director. You're like, oh, cool, this guy's doing this movie. For this movie, it doesn't feel like a Scott Derrickson movie. Like there's nothing there that really kind of shows his expertise.
I was expecting more like horror elements, especially like the stuff in the Sanctum, what they could have done and how they could have utilized the items that were just sitting around. I mean, like I noticed about like 50 different things sitting throughout each and one of the Sanctum Sanctorums, and they didn't use any of them, like except for maybe the cloak. They used the Wand of Watum, which is fantastic. That was even in the film, but they didn't like utilize a lot of things, and I'm like that's really weird that they had a whole fight scene within the Sanctum and nothing was used other than the cloak and the Wand of Watum, and I don't know, and but like one thing I will say is like I love the theme of this film, like the score I thought was fantastic. And
I did think it was very good.
I thought the score was good. Nice. I thought the music
that was probably one of the better scores I've heard in the MCU.
I still remember it after walking out of the theater. That's more than I can say for a Thor or Ant-Man. So.
Like I almost want to buy a copy of the soundtrack just to own it and listen to it sometimes.
Yeah, it's very unique.
But when I think of that theme, I'm actually envisioning like darker elements of this magical world, like more horror elements, and so I'm like I'm not really sure like the theme quite fits the tone. If that sounds weird, as much as I loved it, I'm like like I feel like this theme needs to like showing it needs to be showing a darker side.
like it's a different character almost. It feels that this theme belongs to this Doctor Strange. I'll say this. I wasn't expecting a whole lot from Benedict Cumberbatch. He actually plays a really good protagonist.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like I just because he's an actual dick. He's like a straight up dick in the first part.
Like in the first 10 minutes of the movie when he's driving through the countryside and he's like literally rejecting patients because it's not too out there for him.
Yeah,
I'll give Marvel credit. That was the best don't text while driving ad I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, there was definitely a hidden message there.
Yeah,
there was a hidden message.
Yeah, like I was driving back and my phone went off and I'm like, remember what happened to Steven? And I like put my hand back on the wheel.
But Will, you could get super cool sorcerer powers if you text and drive and ruin your
I'm
hands.
not from Louisiana. I won't be Brother Voodoo. Like, it's not gonna happen.
Oh, I am.
Oh,
I could get magic powers.
This is kind of random, but I want to talk a little bit about the Easter eggs of the film. So one big thing that I feel like they really missed a chance to show is that as much as we did get glimpses of in the Sanctum, one element was taken out of the film before the final cut, and I was upset by this. I don't know if Luke, you're aware of this, but one of the prop designers that was on set had kind of spoke out, but he was actually asked to take away the ebony blade out of the film.
Yeah. I think
they were going to use the ebony blade at some point in the film.
I don't give a shit about Black Knight, but that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
no one cares about Black Knight, but the weapon itself is cool. I know it from Black Panther.
Black Knight's boring as fuck, but the ebony blade is cool.
He's boring as shit, but him and his horse, that's another story.
What they could have done with the ebony blade could have been had potential there, but okay. Aside from that. I still don't. That doesn't make sense why they took it out. I don't know. Maybe it was one of those things where they may not have full rights to the Black Knight. That actually could be a thing.
Why the fuck would Fox have the Black Knight? What are they going to do with him?
That could have been a thing like with Sword because Sword.
Oh, we got another black character at Fox.
Well, no, maybe someone is desperately trying to sell Marvel the rights to Black Knight, but they don't want to have him because Black Knight is terrible.
Well, it's like, well, then why would you put the ebony blade there?
Because the prop designer stepped out of his bounds and he was fired promptly.
He wasn't fired, as far as
How
I know.
dare you try to put in this awful character into our Doctor Strange movie?
Okay, he wasn't trying to put in the character. It was a weapon that character...
I'm just joking.
That one of the Black Knights, owned. But anyways.
I'm just joking.
I think I was with my friend Nate, and I heard him... He was sitting a few seats away from me, and he squealed like a little freaking girl, and I kind of did too, when Mordo pulled out that staff and said, "This is the staff of the Living Tribunal."
Oh yeah, I caught that. Like, oh shit,
that was pretty cool.
I looked over at my friend Nate, and he started squealing, and I talked to him after the movie. He's like, "Dude, a tear ran down my face."
I actually kind of wanted to bring up something about that because in the past, whenever they like mention a name or something, I know I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I think I've seen enough of these where like in Doctor Strange they say the Living Tribunal. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like I don't know. I feel like I've gotten past that point where like, yeah, Easter eggs are cool, but it's
all they
Easter
are.
Egg.
Also, too, I'm also going to say this too, that I'm critiquing again. I don't know if I like that so many Infinity Stones have been on Earth.
I don't like that the Infinity
weird.
Stone is in the Eye of Agamotto. I really don't like that.
I see why they did it for.
I mean,
it makes sense why they did it for a plot reason, but I mean, in general, I'm not. Yeah.
Like in general, I understand Time Stone. We got to put these stones in somewhere, but like at the same time, I feel like it takes the magic out of that relic.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm wondering: how they're going to spin all of this in the long run. Is like how is Thanos just going to how is he going to break into Odin's vault in Asgard? How is he going to break into the Sanctum? How is he going to rip that stone out of Vision's head? Like, I just
very, very easily.
How is he going to break? How is he going to break in the vaults on Xandar? Like,
he is going to punch really hard.
Let me elaborate.
Stomp around into size 25 Tims.
How is he going to do all of this in one movie?
He's not.
He's not. He's just gonna have part of it done by the time you get to Infinity War 1.
They'll start doing end credit scenes before Infinity War, and then they'll have a montage. They'll have a montage going, "Gotta break into the vault and get the stones for a montage."
Yeah.
Montage.
You're just gonna see Thanos and DJ Khaled in the Thanos cup, just like another one rips the stone, another one grabs it.
No, Matt Stone and Trey Parker should come on and direct the montage of Thanos taking the stones.
No.
I feel like that would work out very well.
That'd be funny.
God, no.
That'd be
But,
really
Okay, back on track.
We should probably get back to Strange.
I'm going to talk a little bit about Clea. I thought she was fine in the film, actually, because...
Wait, is that Clea?
Who?
I could have swore they said Clea.
Who's
at
Clea?
some point in the
Are you
film.
talking about Rachel McAdams?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
Night
not-
I
Nurse.
could have...
That's not Clea.
It's not Clea? Oh,
No.
I
No,
thought
it's
they
not
said
Clea.
Clea. Okay. I am
No.
sorry. I apologize. Her character
What's
was
her name?
fine.
Charlene?
Yeah, for some reason, like, reviewers were saying, like, his love interest was so, like, subpar, and it was, not, like, very well developed. But I'm like, I thought it was fine. I feel like she had, like, a really nice amount of screen time. It wasn't like the love story there was almost non-existent, which is fine with me, actually. I'm sick of love stories. Like, I'm sick of subplots with
I'm sick
arcs.
of forced ones. This one was just like, okay, it's kind of pre-established that they had something going. Their chemistry was good enough to pull it off, and
Yeah. Here's my problem with it. She is fine in the movie as being like a friend of Strange or whatever, but for the amount of time that she has and the amount of importance that she has to the movie, it feels like they might have been better off if they just didn't bother using like a character like that. Like, nothing would have been lost if she wasn't in the movie. And like, again, it's fine. It's not obnoxious or anything. It's not like fucking Natalie Portman in Thor. Like, she's bearable, but
I think Christine
just
was
feels
fine.
But I mean, I just feel like, again, for a movie like Doctor Strange, the whole love story thing is like a staple of comic book movies that I really think needs to go away, and I feel like Doctor Strange should have been the one to do that, and it kind of does, but it also, again, it has the elements that are still there.
I mean, what?
And they didn't feel like they should have been.
Are you saying Steven can't have fuck buddies?
I'm just saying,
You racist?
Steven maybe could have had a journey on his own without his kind of ex-girlfriend telling him, go be a sorcerer.
Well, then what will he have waiting for him in New York? Nothing. All his money is gone.
That's true. But I mean, like, that would have been even more depressing, which this movie probably could have needed a little bit more of.
Yeah, I feel like there should have been a more of a struggle, like with his origin, because because this was one of the shorter Marvel films, actually, if not the shortest. It ran just under 2 hours, and that's even including
that was kind of odd.
That's including the credits and everything.
Yeah.
So that,
and I will get credit where credit is due. He like loses his hands like within 10 minutes of that movie.
yeah, he does.
It establishes, like, okay, this is Strange. He's super talented and a prick.
Well, let me tell you the first 10 minutes of the movies, ladies and gentlemen. You're introduced to Doctor Strange, your mild-mannered surgeon, who happens to be a giant dick. On the way to his famous neurosurgeon talk, he gets into a car accident, and his hands get broken. Now, Benedict Cumberbatch is the Dr. Weird.
the Dr. Weird.
I'm gonna talk,
but I mean, like, it was really fast. But I mean,
but
I
love
I love like almost every role that Chiwetel Ejiofor plays.
He was so
pretty
fucking
cool.
good. He was really good.
He was really good, and I actually loved Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. I didn't think I was going to enjoy her as much as I actually did.
I think she was fine too. The whole like pulling energy from the dark dimension thing was just kind of a weird turn that I don't really know why it was there, except to say sometimes we have to break the rules, because I guess rules were an important part of this movie.
Well, it makes sense, like because like the first line we hear in the film, Caecilius is like, "You're a hypocrite." He screams hypocrite at her.
Hypocrite.
Yeah. And
exactly like that.
I was like, wait, why is he calling her a hypocrite? And then at that moment, you know why, is because I'm like, wait,
right,
she has that mark too, but she hides it.
It's fine. Yeah.
Oh.
We all have strange methods to doing our jobs.
Apparently, Cumberbatch also did Dormammu.
Yeah, he did body work, I think, for him.
Didn't even notice that. I wasn't paying any attention to it.
And I will say this: I am so glad that, because like I saw those leaked still images of what Dormammu looked like. I am so glad he wasn't just a giant face like cloud monster. Like, I thought he was Parallax for a minute, and I'm like, oh no.
No. It makes sense when you actually see him there.
But he has a body, and he's just really big. He's like the size of Galactus. He's really big.
He's just super big.
Space
also,
demon.
They name dropped Destroyer of Worlds, and I know that they were referring to Dormammu, but I couldn't help think I was like Galactus. So I'm like, oh wait, Dormammu.
No, the other space cloud with eyeballs.
And I'm like,
I actually wanted to say this because I found it really cool. Luke, did you notice that when Dormammu shows up, faintly on the sides of his head, he has those really Kirby-esque, Ditko-esque lines like going around his head?
I noticed that.
That was pretty cool.
That was cool.
That.
Yeah, it's apparently we got sort of like an Easter egg toward like the mindless ones, but I didn't see that anywhere.
I think it was Caecilius and his.
When they turned.
In.
Oh.
Yeah, when they got sucked in.
I don't know why. I was watching that and I'm like, that didn't click with me. That's really weird. Like you actually, now that I think about it, you do watch them turn into the mindless ones. Okay.
It was funny though. Like, after my showing, after the post-credit scene with everything with Baron Mordo kind of slowly turning to the more malicious side of his character that most people know. Just there's like a couple people left in the theater, and I just hear somebody like underneath their breath go behind me, just like, "Son of a bitch!" Like he sounded like he was really hurt by.
He's like, "Oh, the guy that left at the end became evil?"
Yeah, like he just didn't know. He's like, "Son of a bitch!" Like, how dare he? I trusted you, Baron Mordo, after everything we've been through.
I trusted you, Chiwetel Ejiofor.
He killed the poor guy that was you saw was like the catalyst for Doctor Strange, and I'm like, what?
Can I talk about that guy for a minute?
Took his legs, man.
That was one of the weirder and not in a good way parts of the movie where Strange literally goes and talks to this New Yorker talking about ancient spells and monks while he's playing basketball in his hoodie. Like,
guess what,
are you
man?
Serious?
Go to the mountains of
Was this really how he goes like, "Yo, man, all right, I'll tell you. I went to the monks of this ancient civilization and they gave me the magic power. They made me expand my mind." It's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, it makes me wonder, because I think you're right. Like, a lot of this just doesn't seem like a Scott Derrickson film. And it almost makes me wonder how much creative control he had over the writer's script, because he didn't write the film.
No, he didn't.
Someone else.
He was one of the writers on it.
I think he didn't he didn't write the script. I think he helped.
Yeah, he wasn't the main writer for it. I know what you mean.
I think he helped build the mainframe of what they were going for, but he didn't write any of the dialogue or anything like that.
I feel like if this would have been a Scott Derrickson movie, if he had full control, we've gotten way many more monsters.
I think he would have went. I think he would have went like the traditional spell casting. Like, we're gonna introduce these monsters. We're gonna show people like. I mean, he may have even went as far as actually showing the Vishanti and like Doctor Strange meeting them on a higher plane of existence, and like Doctor Strange learning forbidden knowledge from them. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he would have really went that route if he would have had the resources in the control. I feel like that's what Derrickson would have done, and I feel like the movie would have probably been much darker, and he would have definitely included more horror elements in the film. And that's honestly
he's got to stop all the ghosts that are coming.
That's what I really do think it should have been. It should have been a darker, more kind of scary Marvel film. And I mean, like, it's fine. It's a fine movie, definitely. But it's like, you see moments where, like, the cloak of levitation is like suffocating a dude and he's like throwing him around violently, wiping his tears, and it's just like, all right. I mean, that cloak, Scott Derrickson. This isn't Scott Derrickson.
That cloak was taking a long time to take out Scott Adkins. Like, damn.
Yeah,
It took a very long time.
I'm
They
not
didn't even do it.
It did
again.
Just killed him.
Again, there's going to be people out there that are going to disagree with literally everything we've been saying, like like with us critiquing the film. But I'm not being disrespectful toward Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, any of the writers, the cast, because like honestly, I love all those people. I love Scott Derrickson as a director. I think like as much of a home run as this film is, they really had some missed opportunities. And again, I think that just shows that they did it on purpose. They were like, okay, we're going to very cautiously and safely introduce you to this universe. You know what I mean? That's like, the feeling that I got.
Like they got visual stuff down, definitely. But in terms of like the actual lore and just like the elements from the Doctor Strange comics, like they kind of eased back on it a little bit. Like, you know what? I think I'll just go ahead and say what I think they should have done. I think that they should have done in media res. I think we should have started the movie with him already as Doctor Strange, like fighting Nightmare in this parallel dimension of like someone's dream, much like the first issue of Doctor Strange where he saves someone from Nightmare. And like literally just you could have had a flashback every now and then, like say Baron Mordo's causing mayhem, and like you have a flashback every now and then of him training and him and Baron Mordo's relationship, and then that would have been like the villain, like Mordo, and it would have been gut punching.
Here's the tone. I didn't think of this. I didn't really have like a word for it. Here's what I think that they like the tone that I wanted. I didn't again have a word for it. It should have been Lovecraftian.
Yes, it should have been eldritch monsters, and it should have been.
They should have done like an
eldritch
like version of like Shumagoroth, and just like really dark and sinister. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Honestly, like I feel like it was a mistake to use like Dormammu as like the big thing.
I think
like,
it was a mistake to introduce him so early.
Like, here's the thing. It would have been fine to introduce him, but Luke is totally right, because if you wanted to really show people the weird side of Doctor Strange, you have him fight like a freaking Lovecraft monster.
Shumagorath, basically.
Movie. Yeah, like Shumagorath. Exactly.
Nightmare would have been a good... I feel like Nightmare also would have been a natural way to go.
I think Shumagorath could have fit the tone for like a first one, just because... For me, I guess the tone for Doctor Strange should have just been generally weird. I don't know about dark, but I think like basically take LSD, a kaleidoscope, and Lovecraft, put it in a blender, and throw Harry Potter somewhere. That's what Doctor Strange
because I feel like
for
just
me,
the whole idea of a typical because like the whole typical superhero origin thing, like there's a lot of things in here where you can like check the list off, like that was done in other origin movies. But I think about it, it's like I don't think Doctor Strange really needed to be this. Like, he could have started as Doctor Strange already. Like, I don't think it would have been that hard to do it that way.
Well, see, it's weird because I thought that they were hinting that he was already Doctor Strange, like, years before the Avengers even took place. So
yeah, like, the trailer made it seem like he had been... I thought that it was like he was training throughout the entirety of the MCU up until, like, after Civil War, but it was like, no, it's after the Avengers. He trained for a few weeks, maybe a month. Who knows?
I don't know. I just don't know. It's really hard to say because, like we were talking earlier, the passage of time is a little obscure in this, and they don't really explain it very well. They try to play it off as if it's not a thing, and they kind of allude to, like, this is vaguely how long it's been, but we don't know. We just simply don't know.
Time is relative, though, Luke.
Time is relative, and speaking of that, I wanted to mention the fight with Dormammu as like it wasn't really a fight, but it was more of like, I will say that like funny. The way he did it, the way that he beat Dormammu was he used his wit and intellect, and it was very clever how he did it, and he didn't really use magic. He just created a time loop and trapped Dormammu there.
Let's be real. He annoyed him to stop.
No, he did. But so
literally all he did.
Here's what I was gonna say is that in like the real world, or I guess our reality, time was frozen. So Doctor Strange could have been doing that with Dormammu for a millennia. He could have, like, who
Yeah,
knows how
like-
many times, because it seems like it took Dormammu a while to realize that he was being tricked into being stuck there. And then once he finally realized it, because I don't think Dormammu would have given up after a couple of times of killing him and threatening him and killing him and threatening him, I think that would have taken a very long time for Dormammu to finally give in and say, fine, I'll make a deal with you. Just let me go.
Which I do really like. They do keep that element that the deal is what keeps Dormammu from coming in. But
yes.
I do want to ask this question. I asked you guys before the podcast, and I just want to ask it just to bring up this point that really bothers me.
Sure.
Why does Strange get to keep the Eye of Agamotto throughout the movie? How come whenever Wong and Mordo...
He's the first one to open it, I guess.
How come whenever they show their disapproval for everything he's done, how come after the fight in the Sanctum, they don't just take it back?
Protagonist?
Convenience.
Oh, that too?
No, one word, Infinity Stone.
Two words, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Honestly, yes. I think it's because
it just feels like it's a major oversight.
I think it's because he's one of the few people to actually open it that was like a student at the time. Because both Wong and Mordo were they're just like, hey, don't pick that. How the fuck did you open that?
He was studying something he shouldn't have been doing.
I'm not saying it was a good reason.
And he had
I'm just
a photographic
saying
memory, so it was easy for him.
I'm not saying it was a good reason. I'm just saying that's probably what the reasoning was. Is that, he opened it. He can hold on to it for a little bit.
Yeah, it chose him.
One thing I thought they were gonna do that didn't really go anywhere was when they were in the mirror dimension, and they were talking about you don't want to use your sling ring, you don't want to lose your sling ring, or you can't get back out. And I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna have a scene where he loses the sling ring and channels magic from his own self and goes back, and it never happened. I'm like, oh well, that was just
I think
false load.
I like that they had the mirror dimension, but here's my thing. I feel like the mirror dimension was their way of making sure there's no casualties when they fight, so there's no threat to anyone like some other superhero movies. And 2, this was their way of making it say they technically do fight in another dimension.
Yeah, I mean, and it is another dimension because I had to do that write-up for Super Science one time, so it is like an extra dimensional plane.
It is technically another dimension. It just looks the exact same as our own.
Yeah, it legitimately. Yeah, it's the whole space between spaces type of deal. So it can't exist as another dimension. It does make sense because dimensions are just
that one dimension where
measurements.
the hands were just growing. Oh, that was weird.
That's what I wanted more of.
That was Lovecraftian. It was very Eldritch.
That was cool. He falls into his eye and that's the kind of stuff that you really wanted to see. They give you a taste, but it just feels like that should have been the whole movie.
You get 2 strokes.
You don't really get that. You get a stroke. You get a half chub. You don't get a full one.
People don't realize that, in the comics, Doctor Strange is consistently fighting with other dimensional monsters, and Wong and Wong and the Ancient One talks about that. That actually kind of sent chills down my spine when the Ancient One says, what did she say to him about other dimensions? When if you would see half the things that I see every single day, you would run in fear, or something along the lines of that. But I wanted to see that, give me more of that. Give me that adrenaline rush. You know what I mean? But that's what Doctor Strange does. I mean, he'll be sitting in a coffee shop, drinking a cup of coffee in the morning, reading a newspaper, while half of his physical, or half of his consciousness is in the astral plane fighting monsters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fighting Algamagog of the plane of square people,
fighting Asmodeus and Megaleg and Leviathan.
Doctor Strange comics are so weird and so absurd and out there that it just feels like for a movie, maybe it was just doomed from the start that it was never going to be able to do all of that stuff that we are expecting from it.
And so, honestly, some of the stuff we talk about, I generally do think it would have been a little bit of an overkill, and some of the mainstream audience. But see, here's the thing. I think people say mainstream audiences can't handle certain things.
Bullshit.
I'm starting to get to a point where I'm disagreeing with that, because I'm finding general audiences like are eating the crap out of that stuff. Out of like, just look at how well Guardians of the Galaxy was received. I have literally, before Guardians came out, I talked to countless people who were like, a talking tree and a walking talking raccoon. It's like, what is this crap? And then they go see the movie and they're like, this was awesome. Like, I'm so invested in this universe and these characters now. Like, I'm just like, I don't feel like that's much of a thing anymore, where it's too much for mainstream audiences. I feel like they're going to see the movie, and even though some of them might not be able to understand what's going on, they'll either A, do the research on the internet and find out themselves, or B, they got nerdy friends. I mean, like, I go and see some of these Marvel and DC movies with people who don't read the comics, and so, like, they're just asking me questions constantly after the film, and I answer them, and then they have a better understanding, like, oh, okay, I understand it now, that's cool. It's cool that they did that. And I'll be like, yeah, they did this in the comics and they did this in the film, or they did it a little bit differently in the comics than in the movie. And they're like, oh, okay, now I know like the differences, but like it's really cool that they did that, or they had that Easter egg, or they had this reference. You know, and I'm like, I think mainstream audiences can handle seeing other timelines. They can handle seeing Lovecraftian themed monsters and things like that.
I think at the end of the day, it's more like, I feel like maybe we should give the general audience a little bit more credit than we've been giving them.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
They can handle complex shit, man. Just give them a chance.
But,
give Strange a chance.
Is there really anything else to talk about with Strange? Or?
No, I mean, again, this was one of Marvel's shorter films. I just I wish that the movie would have been like 3 hours long and we could have gotten every single thing that we talked about that we wanted to see. But
son, we wouldn't even be doing this show.
So yeah, we are about 42 minutes in now. So I think we're gonna cut it off, guys.
Yeah. So Just a last thing to say. If you truly love something, like love a character, love a company, you can talk about its flaws and you can notice and criticize it. Exactly. It doesn't mean that you love the thing any less.
Well said, Luke. Well said, dude. Because we don't hate, none of us, I don't think, hate the film. I actually loved most things in the film. I do. I just, a lot of it I'm critiquing, and I feel like this is how they should have done. I'm not saying that I could have done it better, because I definitely could not have, because I'm not a screenwriter. I'm not even a comic book writer. I just I read comic books and I read this lore in this universe, and I watch the films and I compare the two. And people say, why are you comparing the two? Because they're so different. Because there are actual people out there who believe that you shouldn't compare the source material to the film. But if it wasn't for the freaking source material, there wouldn't be the films. So they have to pull from somewhere. And I don't think that it's necessary to always pull verbatim what happens in the comics, or how things play out, or how things work in the comic into the film, because, well, simply sometimes things don't translate well. But at the same time, there needs to be a core there needs to be a core consistency between the comic and the movie. It needs to be recognizable. Exactly, it needs to be recognizable. Was Doctor Strange recognizable? Yes, I will say that it was recognizable to the comic. It was different, and they didn't do things quite the same or quite how I would have liked them to do them, but yeah, I mean, it's just it's a good movie. It didn't like, there were some, see, this is the thing, like, I want to say it wowed me. Some elements wowed me. Some of the visuals wowed me. But at the end of the day, this was maybe like a 7.5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I think I'd probably say like a 7 for me. 7. It's fine. It's a fine movie.
I'll give it probably just, like just really coasting off the visuals and the soundtrack, I guess, compared to a lot of other Marvel movies. It's like sitting somewhere between a 7 and an 8 for me. So maybe like a 7.8 or something. At least right now. I need to let it mellow after a couple days.
Yeah, I mean, you could be like me, and the score for some Marvel movies drops every time you see them, but that's just because I'm a pessimistic asshole. So
I'm gonna say this too.
But that Wonder Woman trailer, though.
We're not talking about that.
We're not talking about that, Will. But I'm just gonna say real quick before we close this out to the listeners of this, please be nice to us in the comments. Please be respectful to others in the comment section. We know that you guys are going to talk and talk and talk our ears off, so please be respectful. We love different opinions, and we would love to hear from you guys. We always love to hear from you guys. You guys are what keep this channel going for real. And it really upsets me when people are disrespectful to one another. I just ask all of you to just please be nice to each other. It's okay to disagree and have different opinions, but just be nice to each other. And we'd love to hear from you. Anyways, guys, this has been the spoiler discussion for Doctor Strange. I have been your host, Luke, and I'm joined with Lurk.
Yes, the yellow Lurk.
Yellow Lantern Lurk. And we got Will.
Another time here, I guess.
We got Trill Will.
Guess I'm like Doctor Strange. I got time powers too, bitch.
Yes. All right, guys.
Bye.
Well, catch you guys later.